So
hello, good evening. Welcome to the programme. Two guests here this evening. I'm not sure we've had this combination of guests on this show on Sheffield Live TV ever before, or anywhere else for that matter. Let me know if you know, I'm inaccurate with that. We're going to have a lot of accuracy this evening in terms of dates, historical dates, because we've got Sheffield Football's version of the Time Team here in the studio this evening. A little bit of a giggle from both of them for that. I didn't tell them I was going to call them that beforehand. The two football club historians from, this is in no alphabetical order, from Sheffield United, John Garrett, who's the furthest from me over there, and from Sheffield Wednesday, Jason Dickinson. A very warm welcome to both of you. And you've both brought some artefacts and, you know, memorabilia this evening. It'll be like the OK Corral with a quick draw to see who's got the most impressive artefact. But it is good to see both of you at a time when Sheffield Football, the big discussion about it, and I think this links the two clubs, is that there should be a lot more shouting about where the game originated, a lot more.
absolutely.
We'll start with something we agree on.
We always agree, all right.
Yeah. There's historical points later, but Jason, I saw you recently. In fact, I met you recently because we never actually met before at this Football Treasures exhibition at the Central Library in Sheffield, which drew a lot of interest.
I think about 2,000 or 3,000 people came, and considering it was a Thursday afternoon, it was a very, very good turnout.
Yeah.
I expected a few hundred, but it just shows what interest there is out there.
Untapped interest, John. Untapped.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few of us in the city around the football clubs that's been banging Sheffield's drum in its place in football history for years. And as Jason said quite rightly, the whole library thing was a real unknown quantity. We didn't know who would turn up, how many. And to see 2,500 to 3,000 people file through in one day just proves to you the interest is there. You know, this is a football city, no matter who you support.
Yeah. You remarked, I remember on the day to me, Jason, you were there, you had a kind of Sheffield Wednesday stand, as the Blades had as well. And you looked around the room and said, well, we could have filled this room with Wednesday memorabilia
quite easily
on its own.
Yeah. I mean, you could probably have a permanent exhibition in Sheffield, and all the people that have got memorabilia and the clubs, they could have a museum permanently, somewhere like the Millennium Galleries, or at least one for several weeks, and they could just replenish the stuff every day. There's more than enough stuff.
And we see that from Legends of the Lane, the museum there. And I'm sure that there is more than you're actually displaying.
Oh yeah, I mean, 20 years ago, whatever it is now, I went to Derek Dooley, bless him, and said I felt the club should be doing something to preserve this fantastic history, not only of the football club but the ground as well. And bless him, Derek and Kevin McKay were good enough to give me the licence to go out and find it all. And I would say at any one time we've only got less than a quarter of the overall collection out on display. So, as Jason was saying, we're in a great position where we can change things around, freshen it up. And I mean, we use the museum to really, when you're dealing with your next generation of fans as much, I think you've always got to know where you came from to truly know where you're going. And it's almost a living classroom. It's brilliant.
That exhibition, which I visited, and you know, was fantastic. What occurred to me there, I suppose it was a toe in the water, as you said, but I thought, well, it was a narrow band of time for one day. I think it was like 10 o'clock in the morning until 2 p.m. It's like 4 hours. For a start, not catching kids on leaving school, not catching kids, you know, in the morning unless they were taken as part of their lessons. And I thought, well, why not a week? Not just a sliver of a day. Why not a week? Do you think that will be next time that the powers that be within the city have maybe looked at it, will look at it and think, hey, we should have a week-long exhibition here? What do you think?
Well, it's got to happen. Somebody's got to make it happen. Like you said, you could do it for a week. I mean, even my own collection, the collection of my friends who aren't directly connected to the club as such, between 4 or 5 of us, we could put an exhibition on for a week with Wednesday memorabilia. And like John said, you know, like most museums, they've got all this stuff in the vaults, haven't they? This is on show, and every few weeks they just rotate.
Yeah.
And same for Sheffield United. I mean, Hallam and Sheffield were both there. They've obviously both got quite a lot of memorabilia. They've got 2 very enthusiastic historians as well. Obviously, the Sheffield and Hallamshire FA, all their trophies. We've got the oldest trophy, haven't we? The Uden Cup, which was there as well. We've got so much history, it's just unbelievable in one place.
I think the thing with it is, I'd agree with you, that the timing in terms of getting the kids through your next generation of fans, not of every football club, but of Sheffield football, is challenging. And a lot of the issues we had was obviously the key days of Saturday, which for us is showtime. I'm employed by the club. Obviously, we've got duties. Jason watches Wednesday home and away. So it's getting the balance right. Had the fixtures fallen differently, we'd have looked at housing the display in our museum for a number of days, but it just didn't fall right. We got 2 home games. But as you said, the key is the kids, and getting the schools round and really educating them as to what we've given to the world as you know, as a unit, not just as each individual football club. So it'd be nice to see it, but there's got to be more backing with it, Alan. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, in the bottom line is cash, isn't it?
Yeah.
It always is, always will be, in terms of the brilliant stainless steel football idea on a motorway exit. You know, that's got to happen, or in the city centre. You know, it's,
the new home for Sheffield FC and the museum.
Yeah. There's got to be
massive.
There's got to be massive commercial potential for getting that right for this city. You know, it could become a mecca for football fans from across the globe if they get it right. Surely.
Well, you would think so, wouldn't you, if it's marketed correctly.
And but the cash isn't there. You know, you'd think that there would be somebody. All right, okay, it's easy for me because, well, for us three, because none of us have got the kind of. Well, John might have, but you know, Jason and I haven't got the kind of cash. Yeah. Hey, but mind you, Jason's a dark horse, because whereas you work full time for Sheffield United, John, Jason's got a proper job.
Proper job, yeah.
Yeah, he's
an accountant. He's bound to be money now and Alan.
He's an accountant. So sign him up for the project. I'm sure you could have. And by the way, the colour scheme is. Well, don't you think the colour?
Well,
you know, I'm awarding points here. Wednesday United points this evening. And I've no doubt both of you will score points, but I'm awarding Jason the sartorial guest award this evening. I'm sorry about that, John.
Gutted. I mean, I've come straight from work.
That's another point I've got.
See, he's come straight from work. That's what goes for, you know,
that's
dressing
two points in 6 days. So doing well.
Enjoy them both.
Yeah. Do you know, coming out of the derby last Friday, I thought it was quite funny. Just somebody said in the press room as I walked out, hey, they both won 0-0 for different reasons. Yeah. You know, United dominated the game. Well, that was a moral victory.
Only 75% possession, come on.
Yeah.
Possession don't mean anything.
And Wednesday got a great point out of it that nobody expected them to do, really. So we've got that. Oh, and as for dress code, now then, I thought, well, I can't really wear all blue or red. So I've come up with this striped shirt, so it's the right sort of...
So you've dressed as a deck chair, basically.
Yeah. But I think that is between a red and blue. I think that's a sort of purple. Yeah?
Well, you've got the blue of Wednesday and the white of United, haven't you? Ideal.
We're rolling about a week. Yeah.
Do you know that the boss of the station here said to me, hey, you wouldn't walk into a Blades pub with wearing that. I said, it's not blue. It's not blue, it's purple. Anyway, debating point.
Listen, I've got a blue car. You can imagine the stick I got for that, can't you?
Do you enjoy this banter, the pair of you? As long as it doesn't get out of hand. And we had a derby. I'm going to go back in history, by the way, and look at the early history of derbies in both clubs. But it was good. Unless I've missed something, I didn't read of any major crowd problems.
No, I wasn't aware of any. I didn't.
About that,
Didn't hear of anything or experience anything. So yeah, for once it went off quietly.
Yeah, and yet in the very early days of Sheffield derbies, because a recent guest of mine wrote about the history of derbies. He's got a book out about it. You know, there was all hell let loose on the field as much as you know, off the field.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was legalised thuggery in the early days of the derby.
Well, even back into the 1870s and 1880s, there's quite a few. If you read a lot of the match reports of the Wednesday games, there is quite a lot of problems off the pitch as well, where games are stopped and people are running across the pitch so they can have a fight with some Healy fans and they start scrapping in a corner.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised as you look through them, the things that actually happened.
Yeah, so it's nothing new. I mean, no. John, you've written about, you know, many a derby from years gone by, haven't you? In the Sheffield United programme, you've just got a book out as well, haven't you? About to.
Yeah, there's a compilation, the former player interviews that for years I did. I'm former player officer for the club as well, so Always been in a very fortunate position where I'll know the players and the players' families, and there's a compilation of some of the better of the earlier interviews. It comes out next Thursday, in their own words, which is it's been great to put it together again. But I mean, you interview players from before the war who were still around then, players like the great Jock Dodds, who could tell you some great derby stories of the sort of rivalry. But I mean, I always think of United's biggest gate at Bramall Lane against Leeds in the FA Cup 5th round in '36, over 68,000 people. And Jock told me that the entire Wednesday team were on the Cherry Street touchline, the cricket touchline, all in the flat caps and mufflers, watching. And you see on the Pathé newsreel, and they are indeed there, Blenkinsop and Co, Catlin. And he said, well, we knew them. You know, they come to watch a game of football and support us. Whether it's true or not, I've no idea. He told me, and I can only believe it is. But
yeah, wouldn't happen today, would it?
No, they'll be playing away.
Good point.
Now, it's a birthday today of a famous figure in Sheffield football, and it's significant for a number of reasons, John.
Yeah, today marks the 98th birthday, which is incredible when you think about it, of, as far as I'm aware, our last surviving pre-war player, Colin Coleridge, born in Bar Green in Barnsley. And he's a hell of a character, is Colin. Age is catching up with him a bit now.
98?
Yeah, lives in Newark. We had a bit of a shock Tuesday, I think he had a bad fall. Tony Curry was supposed to be going down to see him and take him a goodie bag from the club and a card, as we always do. And the care home he's living in said, look, it's touch and go with him anyway. The good news is I spoke to the care home this afternoon. He's rallied round 360 degrees. So, Colin, I don't think you're watching us, but if you are, mate, happy 98th birthday. Yeah, absolutely. He can tell you some tales.
Absolutely. And will he be at a game? Has he been at a recent game?
Not been for a few years. It's the travelling more than anything. I mean, he's down in Newark. He had a mate called Eric. Yeah. And Eric would bring him up a couple of times a season, and he'd go up in the director's box. And he's trilby out, thoroughly enjoying himself. And the only problem then, he insisted on singing at the end of every game, so we'd have an hour's entertainment up in the boardroom. But no, he's sadly not been for a couple of years now, and it's just a travelling thing more than anything. Yeah. I'm sure he'd like to.
Any ideas of Sheffield Wednesday's oldest surviving player?
I know we've never had anybody at 100. I suspect you've never had anybody.
No, I don't think we have. No.
Oh, there's a contender.
We had
a couple of contenders.
We've had some early 90s, but currently I can't think of anybody who's anywhere near 98. Oh.
It's weird, isn't it? I mean, I think the 50s is modern history, but there's less and less of the 50s players.
Exactly,
No. It's going to be the shootout, the OK Crown, because you both brought something with you of historical interest. We'll have a quick look at it now and talk about it more in part 2. So come on then, on the draw. Who's going first?
Go on then. So I brought a box, man. From our collection, so the time of the year's poignant, but we remain thus far the only football club to win an FA Cup during a World War. Right. So we've had Remembrance Weekend, an armistice.
Yes.
Sheffield United played Chelsea at Old Trafford in a final that became known as the Khaki Cup final. Just the sheer amount of soldiers that got travel permits to be able to go across and watch it. That's the FA Cup winners' medal awarded to Jack English. Right. Who was one of the fullbacks. We signed Jack from Watford.
Oops, it's gone on the floor.
He's dropped it. Nice. Never just down the big day. Pull that back in your pocket, mate.
When you give me the porcelain, the porcelain that you've brought
You're
with me.
sweating now. Yeah. You really are.
Yeah. Have you better not hold it. This is a 19. Oh, crikey, mate.
He's gone.
Hey, 1915 FA Cup winners' medal.
Yeah.
Yeah. From the Khaki Cup final.
It is indeed.
I should be shot. Really.
You probably will be for that. Part 2, if he's not back, you know what we're doing.
Yeah, you give me something to drop in a minute, but I'm proud and honoured to hold it.
I could tell you.
I've never been a goalkeeper. John, thanks very much indeed.
You're welcome.
You can drop this.
With that, Jason,
I can see that clip.
You can drop that.
Tell me about this.
That's an official invite to the first ever game at what was called Overton in 1899.
Right. I'm not sure that's readable across there, so I will read it. The directors of the Wednesday Football Club, not Sheffield Wednesday, not just Wednesday, the Wednesday Football Club Limited, request the honour of the company of, and that bit's blank, and lady. So it's assuming that they're inviting a man, because it then has printed and lady. In other words, you know, you're invited, you can bring a lady with if you want. It wouldn't go down very well in 2018, would it? To the opening of the new ground at Overton on Saturday next, September the 2nd, 1899. The Lord Mayor of Sheffield, Alderman W.E. Clegg, will kick off at 3 p.m. prompt. There we are. It's in wonderful condition, incredible condition.
There's a Sheffield football name for you, Clegg.
Yeah.
It brings me to the very sore point. Okay, this Overton was actually Hillsborough, wasn't it? Because that where the ground is now.
Yeah, the boundary changes made it Hillsborough.
1899. So 1889, sorry, was when Wednesday moved there, wasn't
1899, first right.
Yeah, I was right. 1899.
Yeah, right,
That's
first
right. Formed in 1889. 1899.
Oh, he's absolutely digging it out here, mate.
Dig it out.
You go in.
Research, Jason.
I
You know that.
can't think of anybody else who were formed in 1889, can you?
Well, so try again.
Try again.
But before the move to Overton, we're going way, way back. And bear in mind, Sheffield Wednesday were formed in 1867.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes, correct.
Well done.
Played at... Where did you play?
Well, we played at Bramall Lane for a lot of games.
Yeah.
I mean, we obviously played at Olive Grove for more years than we did at Bramall Lane.
You got you down about 9 different grounds, isn't there?
There's a lot of grounds. They started at near where Highfield Library is, just off London Road, and then they played at Hunter's Bar near Incliffe Park, that sort of area.
Right.
Sheaf Grounds, right next to Bramall Lane, as was. And obviously Olive
Where the
Grove.
Sheaf House is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where there's still a pub there. They used to play
is.
behind there.
Yeah.
And Olive Grove was the first ground, which is where they played to until they moved to Overton.
Yeah. So how do you feel about borrowing Sheffield Wednesday's ground then, John?
I think we're all right. I think that
They weren't even around, were they, when we were playing?
yeah, we were there. But it was all a byproduct of the cricket committee, or the ground committee, who ran the ground. And when the first football game was staged there in 1862, they realised they got an income stream. And you're going back to a time, as Jason said, I think one of the early reports I've got of Wednesday, I saw in a Greenham from about 1909, which one of the old committee members talking about playing in, Park, which doesn't help us at all, does it?
I don't know.
Bigham, neat ground, Granville Road.
Norfolk Park.
Yeah, Norfolk Park, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
And they saw an income stream by renting the pitch out down there to other local clubs for their bigger game, and the game's developing and growing. Sheffield FC play games there. Wednesday, I think, tends to be bigger cup games and so on, but there's different clubs using it different and just bring an income stream into the cricket club, so thanks for the money, mate.
Yeah, because both clubs originated from cricket, didn't they?
I'm from S2.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Which just gives you an idea of the history in cricket.
I mean, Wednesday was one of the original 6 stakeholders in Bramall Lane. There were 6 cricket teams, weren't there?
That's where the Sheffield United umbrella comes from.
Yeah, exactly,
7 clubs under one umbrella paying a tenner each towards the rent,
That's where the United came from.
Why was it the Wednesday?
I don't know where the Wednesday came from, because when they were formed, it was Wednesday Cricket Club.
Yeah.
And that was what they was called. It was called Wednesday Darnell originally.
People have referred over the years to the Arsenal, haven't they? And the Wolves even. So
I've never been able to nail down when the was officially adopted. No. I know they changed the name in 1929 to Sheffield Wednesday. Yeah. And I know when they incorporated in 1899 it was the Wednesday FC. Yeah. So at some point, probably around the early 1890s, they put the in. I don't no idea why, because they were always referred to just as Wednesday FC.
Yeah.
Or Wednesday Cricket Club.
I know that thing about the Bramall Lane and its sort of mixed history as far as Wednesday United are concerned is all seized on by supporters of such a young age. They can only have read about it in history books, but they do use it for point scoring, you know, around a derby, you know. I saw Wednesday fans referring to it as being their home fixture, you know.
Not strictly true.
Not strictly true.
Who knows if Wednesday had not left, would we have been Leeds? You just don't know.
Hopefully
Well, hopefully not. No, but just as far as a one city club goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always interesting. I think somebody at one point thought, "Hang on a minute, I'm going to do it myself and set something else up." And
well, you never know, do you?
Yeah,
who knows?
Okay, plenty more where this came from in about 5 minutes. So enjoy the break and prepare for more from these two, the official historians of Sheffield United and Sheffield Wednesday. And don't worry, we'll finish just in time for the England game at 8 o'clock. If you're bothered about that sort of thing, I guess here don't seem that bothered. So rejoin us in 5. A roundup, your sport and your team will get mentioned. Lots more on the history of Sheffield football. See you then.